There are some stories we have in humanity's long archive of folklore that seem to be simple enough, that once we hear them, we think, I understand their morals, themes, and lessons pretty much on their face. These types of stories are the ones that nobody feels bad about when they judge it by its cover. For me, the story of Orpheus and Eurydice seems to be one of those tales. Everyone hears it once and thinks, ah, I understand. I don't think this is true though. I believe that the vast majority of people put down the tale of Orpheus with the correct lesson, but the very wrong reasons. This video will go over the story in question, the themes and morals that most people pull from the prose, and why that for most individuals, they got it wrong. In the Greek tale of Orpheus and Eurydice, there are a couple deeply in love. On their wedding day, what should be the happiest day of their lives, tragedy strikes instead. As Eurydice, out on a stroll on her wedding day, is bitten by a snake, and her mortal life is overcome by the serpent's poison. Learning of her death, Orpheus is overcome with grief. Being a very well accomplished musician, he begins to play a song of mourning. It is said that on this day, while Orpheus played his lyre, that the music was so powerful, so beautiful, that all things in the world, living and not, were moved by his music. So great was it that it caught the admiration of the gods themselves, and with their protection, he descended into the underworld. Protected as he was, he passed by the dead spirits and across the Stygian expanse unharmed. Even Cerberus, the guardian dog to the gates of Hades, was taken by the music of Orpheus and allowed him passage. Orpheus presented himself to Hades and his wife, and played his song for them. So deep was the grief of Orpheus, and so passionate his playing, even Hades himself was moved to tears. Hades said he could have his wife back, under the condition he'd lead her all the way through the underworld, while never once looking back at her. She had to follow him the entire way without him seeing her behind him. Orpheus accepted, and marched his way back through the underworld. As he went, he did not turn back to his wife, though after some time he realized he could not hear her footsteps behind him, and he began to doubt. Maybe he was tricked by Hades, though still he did not turn. He marched forth, and it was not until the very end, as he approached the light of the living world, that he could not bear it any longer, and he looked back to see his wife. At that moment, Eurydice was pulled back into the underworld as Orpheus had failed his task. Knowing his mistake, and in grief, Orpheus begged for death, so that he may return to his wife once and for all. He was killed by raging beasts soon after, presumably sent by the gods to end his suffering. The lessons gained from this tale, as I said, seem quite simple. The magic of true love and grief, being able to sway the gods and the world itself, thus gaining Orpheus his protection to enter the underworld. The power of music, and the lyre of Orpheus and his song having an effect so profound, even Hades himself was moved to emotion, and allowed the deity to change in regaining his love. And lastly, the fragility of doubt and trust. For Orpheus did not trust Hades, did not trust his love for his wife, and did not trust she was still there following him. Thus, he failed. But it is here, in that last point, I think the nuance of the story is lost on most readers. Most people believe that Orpheus' task to lead his wife out of Hades' realm without looking back was a test of his love. But I do not think so. His love was already tested by Hades when the god had him play a song to represent his love for his wife. Having succeeded, he was only then given the task to lead her out of the underworld. Others also tend to think it was a test of Orpheus trusting his wife's love for him, that she would be there even if he did not look. I don't believe this one either. We as people do not like when we test each other's love. One spouse testing another, it does not ever go over well. That is not how we as humans view love. We see it as faith, believing in a person regardless of their flaws. Therefore, Orpheus would not have looked back if he knew his wife loved him, which he did. Instead, I believe the lesson is this. The test Hades gave him was testing if Orpheus was worthy of his wife to follow him. A true leader, one capable, strong, and competent, will have others follow him without having to ask. A true leader does not need to look back to make sure his soldiers are following behind him on the battlefield. Only a bad leader does that, for he knows he is not truly worthy of their followership. Orpheus was being tested if he was truly worthy of his wife's love, and if he could truly lead her out of the underworld into the light. There is the common belief over many cultures that a man leads and protects in a coupleship, and a woman nourishes and cultivates. The Greek were no different in this regard, and neither is today's culture to some degree. It's why we still think the man should go see if there's a burglar in the night, or fight the bear while out camping. Protect and lead. It's a hard cultural foundation to change. But that being said, the lesson of the story is built on the idea of leadership and competency. Orpheus was being tested as a leader, his capabilities as a husband. His love was true, but the gods were not certain his character was worthy of devotion. Which is why Hades, even after being moved to emotion by his song, gave Orpheus this final task. In this interpretation, Orpheus's act of looking back could be indeed symbolized a lack of confidence in his ability to lead Eurydice to safety. It suggests a moment of doubt in his own capabilities, rather than a lack of trust in her. Thus, looking back at the cusp of the living world was failure, not because Orpheus did not believe in his wife, but because Orpheus did not believe in himself. Orpheus's failure to maintain his resolve and trust in his own leadership abilities and competency ultimately led to the tragic loss of his love. So, what do you think? Is this just another tale of trusting your heart? Am I correct in thinking it's a narrative lesson on romantic roles and responsibilities in the Greek culture, and, by extension, our culture today? Am I just a crazy loon who doesn't know how to read Greek prose? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you did enjoy the video, give it a like and subscribe if you haven't already. What is the next story you want to hear about? King Midas, the Fountain of Youth, or other mythological stories from around the globe? Let me know. And of course, thanks again, listeners.